From the Foundation Studio right here on Biloxi's Back Bay, as we listen to my friend Steve Azar's One Mississippi. Welcome to SuperTalk Outdoors, where we celebrate every single Monday at lunchtime, the world-class outdoors of the state of Mississippi. I want to thank you for joining us on the SuperTalk, the powerful SuperTalk Mississippi Radio Network, or on SuperTalk TV at C Spire TV. But if you're listening on Facebook or YouTube or your favorite podcast, it is April the 4th, 2022. What a beautiful day it is in Mississippi. I was looking out my window this morning, looking out over Biloxi's Back Bay, and could see fishermen, moving around. I'm sure that's what it looked like all across coastal Mississippi this morning as people take advantage of this incredible weather. Turkey hunters are out in full force all across the state of Mississippi. Turkey hunting is a pretty addictive sport, as you well know, especially if you're a turkey hunter. My son Jordan has been chasing a couple of birds, and it's been a fun season so far. But we're going to be actually talking more about the turkey season in the second half of today's show. But it's supposed to rain again tomorrow. So when it comes to the outdoors, we all know that you got to make the hay while the sun shines, and that's something we've all known how to do so well, haven't we? That is for sure. But hey, by the way, if you we put all the SuperTalk outdoor videos up on Facebook and YouTube. So if you want to watch the show, you can literally see the videos, and you can go to the SuperTalk Outdoors Facebook page or to our YouTube channel and share it with your friends who enjoy the outdoors. Listen, I often say on the show that we will take the opportunity here on SuperTalk Outdoors to talk to a wide variety of outdoorsmen and women who share our love for the outdoors. We're gonna continue to say that we're the capital of the outdoors in America. There are a lot of reasons we say that. I think there are certain parts of the United States that may have certain dimensions that are better, but when you add it all up, from the coastal fishing to the backwater fishing to the lake fishing to just the canoeing and the hunting all across this state, the outdoors enjoyment here in the state are some of the best in the country, and that's why I continue to say that it's the capital of outdoors in America. We're going to get involved from time to time, though, in talking about why what happens at the Mississippi legislature matters to you. This year, as you've heard, if you're a regular listener, the Outdoors Stewardship Trust Fund was one of those issues. So as the session sort of comes to a close, it looks like we may have reached a good agreement from the legislature. And we're going to talk a little bit more about that here in just a second. So without any further ado, I want to invite to SuperTalk Outdoors my friends, the Speaker of the House Philip Gunn, Representative Trey Lamar, and Representative Scott Bounds. How you guys doing?
Good morning, Ricky.
Great. It's good to see y'all.
Thanks for having us on the show.
It's good to see you guys. So look, there's a lot to talk about, but what I want to do first, Speaker, if you don't mind, is you heard the opening of the show, the theme song, One Mississippi. It does look like that song is going to become the state song for the state of Mississippi, and it's the perfect song, isn't it?
Absolutely. I had the privilege of talking with Steve Azar back, I guess, in the fall of the year, and Phil Bryant had contacted me and asked me to meet with Steve and just discuss the song and what it might, if it was a possibility that it might become a new state song. And so when you look at the song, listen to it, it seems to me that it is a very comprehensive song. I think he did a great job of packing a whole lot in, the 3 or 4 minutes that a song is normally in length. He covers our food. He covers our geography, every region of the state. He covers our people, our history, our music. He did a fantastic job of just packing into a song a comprehensive approach to the state of Mississippi, and I think it's an outstanding song. It's one that children can sing. I've seen the video where the children are involved singing it. It's just something I think that brings everybody together, as the song says, One Mississippi. And everybody can find something in that song that they can connect with and relate to. We brought that bill out earlier in the session. We passed it out of the House. It went to the Senate. And just last week, on, I guess, was Thursday or Friday, we were able to finally pass it and send it to the governor. So that bill will declare One Mississippi as an official state song. It also creates a commission that will go forward and study other genres like the blues and rock and roll and other things to determine if there are other songs that could be appropriate for being state songs in Mississippi. So I think it's a great day for our state. We got a new flag, we got a new state song, and it is a very positive reflection upon our state.
It's exciting. You know, Steve's such a good dude, and if you watch the video, he's so passionate, and as you pointed out, I mean, he did such a good job of painting the picture of Mississippi, all corners of Mississippi, a little bit for everybody in that song, and I'm super excited for him. But I think I'm more excited for the state, the opportunity to push that song out there. It says a lot about who we are. You know, we are one Mississippi at the end of the day. We may disagree on politics and whatever, but like I say, especially as it relates to the outdoors, that's when we can all kind of join hands, spend time out in God's creation and really enjoy it. And One Mississippi seems like the appropriate song, not just for the state of Mississippi, but as the theme song for Super Talk Outdoors. I appreciate your leadership on that, Speaker. Hey, listen, before we go to Scott and Trey, I just wanted to say that, you know, I have often said, and you and I have talked about this on my show Coast View down here on the coast, that this year's legislative session is one of the most consequential in a very, very long time. When you think about the income tax and teachers' pay raise and medical marijuana and all the other issues you guys had to talk about, but it was a consequential session, wasn't it?
Absolutely. I've described it as a very weighty session. We had a number of very weighty issues that we had to deal with. And I had my staff pull an article that was written on January 4th of this year. That's the day we convened. And the article was written by one of our newspaper people and questioned whether or not the legislature could handle all the weighty issues that were in front of it. As you mentioned, teacher pay, income tax, broadband deployment, ARPA funds, redistricting, Outdoors Stewardship Fund. The list goes on, and then the budget on top of all that. So the list just goes on and on about the weight of the issues. And last week we pulled that article and we checked the boxes that the legislature had dealt with medical marijuana and ARPA funds and income tax and teacher pay and outdoor stewardship, and on the list goes. So I'm very proud of the way that my team on the House side hit the ground running. We handled each of these issues. We got them done. We are now hopefully going to finish the session up today and tomorrow with the budget. But the fact that we handled every one of those issues in a way that I'm proud of, and I think we did a good job of tackling all those things, shows that in the short 3-month span of time that we meet, we covered a lot of ground. And we handled a lot of weighty issues that I think I'm glad to have behind us.
Well, what's exciting is we'll kind of shift gears a bit and move toward the Outdoors Stewardship Trust Fund. But what's exciting about it is that it looks like we've landed in a place that's going to enable us to fund it significantly the first year and begin to really pull down federal funds. I mean, this is certainly, it's always been about investing in Mississippi's outdoor enjoyment. That is for sure. But the opportunity through significant federal funding opportunities to match that money to as Georgia did, turn $20 million into nearly $100 million. The opportunity for Mississippi to play in that realm is very significant, and it's going to be transformative. Don't you believe?
Absolutely, absolutely. And I know you're a great outdoorsman. In fact, the last 2 times I've called you, you've been on the road to the Delta where you were going duck hunting. So I know this is important to you as an outdoorsman. It's important to me as an outdoorsman. I love the outdoors just as much as you do, and I think all of the people who are interested in this particular piece of legislation are going to be very proud of what has happened. Now, you invited me to come on today, and I will tell you the 2 gentlemen I got with me, Scott Bounds, who has kind of been the champion for this. Scott's the former chairman of the Wildlife Committee, but he's still actively involved on that committee. This is a piece of legislation that he's been invested in for at least 2 years now. And then Trey Lamar, who's the chairman of the Ways and Means Committee, who pushed this bill out and got it passed and got it through the legislative process. I invited both of those gentlemen to join me this morning because they are the ones who actually made it happen. They're the 2 that developed the legislation, worked it, passed it. They're the ones who understand it. And I'm proud of the work that the two of these guys did. And I felt like they needed to have all the credit for making this happen because they're the two that did it. And I do believe this piece of legislation is going to transform the outdoor opportunities that we have. As you pointed out, this helps us to draw down some federal funds, which will just further expand the opportunities we have to enjoy the great outdoors. So I'm glad to have them on the show with me today as well.
So why don't we do this? We're coming to the end of this segment. So when we come back, we're gonna hear from Representative Scott Bounds and from Trey Lamar a bit about the process, why they were so doggedly focused on this issue and why we needed to do that this year so we didn't lose out on another year of federal funds. When we come back, we'll talk to them about their passion and the process and what they believe this means for Mississippi as we go forward. So we'll be back in just a few minutes with the Speaker of the House, Philip Gunn, Representative Trey Lamar, and Representative Scott Bounds. We'll see you after this break.
Leading the conversation on Mississippi's outdoors. It's Super Talk Outdoors with Ricky Matthews on Super Talk Mississippi.
Welcome back to Super Talk Outdoors as we listen to my friend Steve Azar in One Mississippi. Made me think about Leland, Mississippi this weekend, actually. Steve has his Mockingbird Songwriters Festival there this weekend. The weather's going to be beautiful. I checked it this morning. Last year it was kind of cold. I went last year, and it was cool, man. Some of the finest songwriters in the world there in Leland, Mississippi, playing their songs. What a great venue that is, incidentally. So anyway, I look forward to seeing you there. Hey, I've got the Speaker of the House, Philip Gunn, and Representatives Trey Lamar and Scott Bounds with me today, and we're talking about the progress that we've made on the Outdoors Stewardship Trust Fund. And we're going to, by the way, in the next segment, we're going to talk turkey and what's going on at the Department of Wildlife, Fisheries, and Parks these days. Okay, so look, Scott, we'll come to Scott Bounds first. Scott, you've been passionate, super passionate, as the Speaker said, about this bill and why it's important for the last couple of years. Tell me why you felt so strongly about it.
Well, Ricky, first of all, Mississippians are probably more passionate about the outdoors than anything that, we are involved with. That was evident to me as I chaired the Wildlife, Fisheries, and Parks Committee for 8 years. That the passion that people have for outdoor activities, hunting, fishing, camping, trapping, it's very evident. And we didn't reinvent the wheel, as I said many times here on this legislation on House Bill 606. I first started meeting with NGOs, non-governmental organizations that are involved in conservation and ag and wildlife back in 2015 on this. And we met and began to try to craft something that would provide a long-term dedicated funding source for conservation and outdoor projects. And it took us until last year when we had our first stewardship bill last year. And so that was from 15 to 21 was about 6 years. It really took us to put together something. There were some of us that I know I went to Georgia one time and met with some people on my own dime and talked about it and saw what they did. And the NGOs did some independent polling on 2 different occasions and saw that over 80% of Mississippians support this Outdoor Stewardship Trust Fund. And originally the bill called for a diversion from the sporting goods sales tax. And hopefully we will move toward that in the future. And I will let Chairman Lamar talk further about the funding on it in his segment. But Ricky, it's just here again, Mississippians are passionate about the outdoors, whether it's from the coast to the Tennessee state line, deer hunting. And when you have something that other states have proven that will work, when you have a dedicated outdoor stewardship fund, to me, it's a no-brainer. You talk about, and I won't get down into the weeds on this, and you talk about the drawdown of potential federal funds. I want the people to understand that even though it's federal funds, those funds come from excise taxes that manufacturers of outdoor equipment voluntarily pay into the Pittman-Robertson Fund for those funds to be drawn down. Those are not like working tax dollars. Those are excise tax dollars that manufacturers willingly pay into that fund. So that's what that drawdown is on federal funds. And a very, very important part of this because, as you mentioned, we can certainly take every dollar that we put into that fund and leverage it against federal funds for a potential 3-to-1 match. So it's here again, it's a no-brainer. And I appreciate the speaker, and I appreciate Chairman Lamar staying in the saddle with me on this. And the House, we 4 different occasions, or I don't know, 6 different occasions over the last 2 years now, we have passed it overwhelmingly in the House. And so the House has a position on this. The House has a position.
Well, yeah, the last 2 years, last year 117-2, this year 117-4. It's been you guys have really led on this, and we appreciate it for sure. Hey, one last thing before we go any further, I just wanted to mention, Scott Bounds, that Georgia in particular has been a lot of help to us. Their experience, their willingness to share, it's extraordinarily real what they've accomplished, and they want us to be able to accomplish it as well, don't they?
Yeah, they do. And I will tell you, Georgia took it one step further, and it's actually in their constitution. They did a constitutional initiative on it. And so it's enshrined into their constitution. I don't know whether that's down the road for us, or whatever, but this is a good first step. I would still like a full diversion from the sporting goods sales tax. It's paid by the sportsman, but this is a good first step, and we'll continue to enhance and advocate for it and be a champion for it. I know the House will be. Well,
there were a lot of issues, and I've talked about them on the show, so I know the bill inside and out. But it looked like it was clear that the diversion was going to be a showstopper for the Senate. So the fact that we were able to reach an agreement and hopefully get full funding the first year is certainly a step in the right direction. At the end of the day, the House was focused on the diversion because you knew that if you did it as a diversion, that it would be a dedicated funding source, as you pointed out, over many years. Because so many federal projects are not one and done. They take multiple years to be able to pull off. And you mentioned the NGOs, the role that the NGOs have played to educate Mississippi to be focused on this, and the role they'll play going forward to help find innovative programs, to help find other funding sources, federal funding sources going forward. It's pretty exciting to see the role that they're going to be playing. So anyway, coming back to you, Representative Trey Lamar, who has been on Super Talk Outdoors before. It's great hearing your story and your love of the outdoors and your how you enjoy the outdoors with your family. But this one hit to the core for you, didn't it, Trey?
This bill is a game changer for Mississippi, as the other speakers have said. It was an honor for me to help work on it and get it across the finish line. This will allow conservation efforts that we have not had before to continue on in this state for many years to come, after we're all here, for our children and grandchildren. And that's why it was important to me. As somebody who loves outdoors, and most Mississippians do, this is one of the greatest things that I've been able to work on since my time in the legislature. And it's like I said, I'm just glad we got it across the finish line.
Trey, when you and I talked before, and I know you have such a strong connection to the outdoors, but when you say this is important to our kids and our kids' kids, that this is truly generational, this is a generational bill, you really mean that, don't you?
I certainly do. And that's why the House is passionate about the diversion, because we know, 10 years from now, 20 years from now, when I'm not here anymore, when the current appropriations chairmen aren't here anymore, the conservationists that are involved in this effort and the outdoor board, won't have to come back to the Capitol and be held subject to some persnickety appropriator. The funds will already be there, so we can really concentrate on conservation efforts. But we're going to take the win that we got this year and fund it with $10 million in appropriations this year, with hopes of getting more in the future, and ultimately moving to the diversion that will create that permanent funding stream that we've discussed.
Sounds good. When you hear these two guys talk, Speaker, what comes to your mind?
Well, I'm proud of both of them. Everyone needs to know that it's these two individuals who made this happen. For people who love the outdoors, like me and the two of them, I've hunted with both of them. I know firsthand that the two of them have a passion for the outdoors. People need to know that this is something that's going to benefit our outdoor efforts for years to come. And these two gentlemen are the ones that made it happen. So the best thing I did in this whole process was to appoint the two of them to take care of this. But it's the two of them who made it happen. So I wanted to certainly highlight them on this show today and give them the credit for making this come about.
So as we've got a couple of minutes left, back over to you, Trey. You have a closing thought about all this as you move away from the legislative session?
Well, just grateful. We were able to get this across the finish line. This is something that's important to probably most of the viewers that you're listening to. But you couple that with income tax, and we've got one major reform left. I'm working on the alcohol beverage control reform, and we should pass that bill today sometime. We've just had a monumental session where we have done a lot of good, hopefully for that will help a lot of people. And so that's what I'm excited about. And outdoor stewardship is at the top of that list.
Representative Scott Bounds, closing thought from you.
Well, again, Ricky, just as the speaker alluded to earlier, his from his January the 4th list of things that we were going to attempt to do, we have been successful. And it's taken a lot of work, a lot of hard hours, a lot of negotiations. But this has been one of probably in my 19 years down here, the most transformational legislative session far as doing good policy for the people, the citizens, and the taxpayers of Mississippi. This has probably been the most transformational legislative session I've ever been a part of, and certainly giving kudos to Speaker Gunn and all of the House leadership and the House members and staying in the saddle with us on everything that we've done.
Well, listen, guys, God bless all three of you and the entire House for your leadership. And I know you're tired. You look forward to taking a break. Hopefully you'll get in the woods and do some turkey hunting and kind of enjoy the outdoors as kind of a way to get a deep breath. And as Will Primo says, actually go inside of prayer for a second by going into the outdoors. So anyway, it's good to see you guys. Thank you for joining us and have a great day.
Thank you, Ricky.
Thank you so much.
As usual, as I always end every show, stay safe in the outdoors. Always put safety first, and we'll see you after this break. Welcome back to Super Talk Outdoors. I'm thrilled to have been joined by the Speaker of the House, Philip Gunn, Representative Scott Bounds, and Representative Trey Lamar. It takes great leadership to make something like the Outdoors Stewardship Trust Fund work. I appreciate you enabling me to talk about issues like that, because we're going to most of the time talk about the fun stuff. But when it comes to something like an Outdoor Stewardship Trust Fund that has a generational impact on our ability to enjoy the outdoors, it's important. And that's when we're going to talk about it here on Super Talk Outdoors. Incidentally, next Monday, it looks like we'll probably have Lieutenant Governor Delbert Hosemann join us, and he'll share his thoughts as well about the Outdoor Stewardship Trust Fund, his love of the outdoors, and I'm looking forward to having that conversation with him. We'll be pinning him down later today, and so hopefully he will definitely be on next Monday. I talk about the turkey season all the time. I talk about fishing all the time. There's a lot of excitement in the outdoors this time of year, and as I mentioned at the beginning of the show, my son Jordan's been out chasing a couple of birds. And it's super addictive, man. Once you hear that gobble, whether you actually pull the trigger or not, it becomes an unrelenting dream until the season ends or you find your bird. And the guy who knows that better than anybody is Adam Butler, who's the Wild Turkey Program Coordinator for the Department of Wildlife, Fisheries, and Parks. And I'm thrilled to have you back, Adam. How you been, my friend?
Oh, man, I've been great. It's my favorite time of the year, so can't complain a bit. Glad to be here.
Yeah. I'm looking forward to getting sort of the latest on the turkey season. And you guys made some changes this year. You have a non-resident turkey season draw process. We'll get an update on that. But, hey, just generally, what you hearing?
I think the consensus so far has been that this season has been better than last year. Last year was, turkey populations kind of ebb and flow, and you have good years and you have bad years based on how good the hatch is during the summertime. Last year was overall not a really good year. This year's been a lot better. Our harvest reporting system, Game Check, looking at those numbers, we're already 70% of the way to last year's total, and we still got almost a full month left in the season, so that's good news. Things are up. We had really great weather days. Turkeys generally gobble more, and you get more activity out of them on days like we've got today, where it's clear, sunny skies, not a lot of wind, no rain. And we've had a lot of that this year. So all in all indications are it's been a good season. Hearing a lot of good reports, not hearing a ton of bad reports, which is positive. And so that's where we're at,
So let's come back to Game Check for a second for people who don't know what that is. We'll remind people what it is. And I'm curious, well, let's tell what it is, but I'm curious about, do you have a variable that you apply to the system on people who are harvesting, but maybe not using Game Check to kind of get a better sense of that? So what is Game Check?
Sure. Game Check is our mandatory harvest reporting system. It was implemented in 2019, and it's really something that a lot of hunters around the state, a lot of conservationists, and the Department of Wildlife, Fisheries, and Parks had been asking for a pretty long time. Took a while to get in place, but it basically requires turkey hunters to report their harvest so that we can keep track of that data, to have better tabs on how the turkey numbers are doing in different parts of the state. It gives us real-time data, so that's why I'm able to say, hey, right now we're already kind of 70% of the way to where we would have finished last year. And it gives us localized data so that we're able to look at county-level totals and sort of look at a map of how turkeys are distributed around the state. I'm really proud of it. I think hunters, for the most part, have adopted that system. Our agency tried its best to make the Game Check process as accommodating as possible to hunters. And, we created basically 3 different outlets for hunters to check their turkey. And by and large, hunters have adopted our phone-based phone app. About 85% of the turkeys that are checked are through our Game Check app. So that's just a testament to, people using smartphone technology and have that kind of stuff right in their pocket. For those who don't want to go that route or whatever, we also, you can call the bird in using our 1-800-BE-SMART number or report it over the internet. We have a web portal. But like I said, the app is quick and easy. It takes just seconds to report a bird, and that's what most people have chosen to utilize.
So this year we've got a couple of draw processes in place related to turkey season. You've got the wildlife management area, the WMA draw hunts. How are those going?
Those have wrapped up. I say that different WMAs have different frameworks in place. The lion's share of the WMAs that have early season draws, those wrapped up last week, and starting on March the 29th, they're open access to the public. We've got some other WMAs that opened April 1st, and then we have a few that have other specialized regulations and maybe draw throughout the entirety of the season. The non-resident draw that you discussed, so I know we talked about that when I was on a month or so ago, just before turkey season, but over the last couple of years, non-residents coming to our state have grown tremendously. We've seen non-resident license sales to turkey hunters double over just a couple of year period. And so, we took measures this year to try to alleviate that pressure on public ground and implemented basically a draw process for a specific license that non-residents would need to access public lands. That just wrapped up last week. So, we still haven't had time to go through the full data on all of that. Most of the reports I've gotten from the field, from our conservation officers and from hunters, have been that it did accomplish what we set out to do, which was to alleviate some of the pressure on some of our public lands, to give our residents a little bit of preferential treatment to enjoy the public lands right out their back door in our state. And so, as we go forward, we'll really kind of assess how that went this year, and then look at anything we may need to tweak for next year. But first glance is it accomplished what we wanted it to do, which is to try to make our public lands more enjoyable by alleviating a little bit of the pressure we get early in the season.
Well, you and I talked a little bit about this the last time we were together, but there are a couple of issues that support the reason why so many people are coming here from out of the state. One is that just the cycle of seasons in other states. The other is the pandemic brought so many people back excuse me, to the outdoors. But it is significant, though. Actually, as some people may go to 2 or 3 different states and then come to Mississippi at the end, and it was becoming way more popular than it probably needed to be, at least for residents. Is that essentially where y'all came down?
Yeah, well, I think we saw an increase in hunting license sales across the board associated with COVID, and not just hunting. Like I've heard from other industries, pretty much every outdoor activity imaginable saw huge increases from COVID, whether you're talking about biking, hiking, camping, canoeing, boating, just everything across the board. A lot of people, took the COVID pandemic and all the things that went along with it as an opportunity to get outside, which is a good thing. I mean, I'm tickled to death to see more and more people in the outdoors. But certainly, from a hunting standpoint, when we're talking about public lands, especially, crowding is an issue, and so that's something we have to try to work through to figure out how to best navigate. But we have seen an increase in turkey hunting. It has gotten more popular. It's one of the few forms of hunting that has really generally trended upward over not just since COVID, but over the last decade or two. A lot of other types of hunting and hunting license sales have declined, but not so much with turkey hunting, especially not at the national scale. It's as popular as ever, and I think a lot of our turkey hunters may not necessarily like that because it does put a lot of competition in the woods, but it's an opportunity to showcase the wild turkey and the great turkey hunting that we have here in Mississippi that we're really well known for.
Adam, of course, you're a specialist. You're head of the program here in Mississippi, but I'm interested in understanding, why is that? Why is turkey hunting beating the trend?
That's a good question. I don't really know. I mean, part of it is probably because at a national level, turkeys and the restoration of turkeys is a relatively new phenomenon in a lot of the country. Now, one thing I'm really proud of with Mississippi, I think we have a very deep and rich tradition of not just turkey hunting, but the management and the study and the research and the conservation of wild turkeys here in our state. Mississippi, to real quick rundown, turkeys were nearly lost about a century ago due to overhunting and habitat loss and lack of regulations and lack of understanding about how to manage that species. And starting in the mid-20th century, a lot of conservation efforts were put toward restoring wild turkeys. And that took a long time. Mississippi was a leader in that. We were one of the first to start that process. And so we've had turkeys and turkey hunting a lot longer than the rest of the country. Other parts of the country, it's a new thing, and that's probably why you see it growing there.
So, Adam, when we come back, I want to talk about some of the things that Mississippi did. It is amazing, though, what has happened to the turkey population really across the state. This is Adam Butler. He's the Wild Turkey Program Coordinator for the Mississippi Department of Wildlife, Fisheries, and Parks. And we'll see you after this break.
Mississippi. We live in one of the best places in America to enjoy the outdoors. So let's talk about it. It's Super Talk Outdoors with Ricky Matthews on Super Talk Mississippi.
Welcome back to Super Talk Outdoors. I have my friend Adam Butler from the Wild Turkey Program. He's the coordinator there for the Mississippi Department of Wildlife, Fisheries, and Parks. When we went to break, we were talking about how there's been a tremendous effort all around the nation, actually, to help the turkey population, and that certainly may have contributed toward why hunting turkeys has become so popular. But as you mentioned, Mississippi kind of led the way on that. So what is it that signaled we needed to do something, and what did we do that made such a difference here in Mississippi?
Sure. Well, as I was saying, turkeys were nearly lost about a century ago, and catch and release programs where the few remaining pockets of good turkey numbers, where biologists like myself went in and caught birds and released them into habitat elsewhere and were allowed to grow. That sort of program happened all around the country. And like I was saying earlier, Mississippi was one of the first to really start down that road. And so we've had restored viable populations for a lot longer than the rest of the country. And because of that, turkey hunting roots and our traditions here are really, really deep, whereas they're fairly new in other places. And that's why you see a lot of a lot of new interest in turkey hunting in other parts of the country that have kind of shifted the outdoor industry focus that way. And so if you're consuming a lot of outdoor hunting media, you in the last decade or so, you've seen a lot more turkey hunting and a lot more promoting of turkey hunting. And that's because, in much of the country, it's a new thing. Whereas here in Mississippi, we've had it for decades and decades and decades.
It is interesting, and it's one of the reasons why folks like Toxie Hayes and Cuz Strickland of Mossy Oaks, who've been on been on Outdoors show here at SuperTalk Outdoors, and Will Primos and his team, and I'm thinking of Lake Pickle and Jordan Blissett and that group. They're super active on social media. They travel all over the country, and you can tell, man, that there's a real market for turkey hunting media. And you're right. I mean, that probably has grown very significantly, and it's been good to see, hasn't it?
Yeah, absolutely. And I think part of that, the age demographic that's really gotten into turkey hunting heavily is sort of that 20 to 30-year-old demographic, and so they're consuming a lot of that sort of media. And you see groups like you're talking about definitely capitalize on that to get the word out.
It's good to see. I mean, just speaking of social media, just in general, the number of people who are out, and I have seen certainly an incredible exponential increase in people who are posting pictures from their turkey hunts, whether they harvest or not, just being in the outdoors. So I mean, it seems like even more so this year than last year. I'm sure that's partly explained by a proliferation of social media in general. But I just think there's
and partly, as we mentioned earlier, I mean, this year has been a little bit of a better season here in Mississippi, at least, than last year was. Last year was kind of one of the, as I said, the numbers sort of ebb and flow, and last year was definitely a trough in that up and down, whereas this year just seems to be a little bit better.
Hey, real quick, I wanted to ask you a question in the short time we have left. Why don't turkeys like the fog?
Why don't they like the fog?
Yeah, why is turkey hunting so not as good when it's foggy?
I don't know. Well, you're asking me to get into the mind of the turkey. I don't know what they think about fog. What I do know is that the conditions where they tend to gobble the most are usually going to be a really clear morning, really still morning. Usually when we have drier atmospheric conditions, like after a front passes, so you get a couple of days where the humidity is relatively a little bit lower. And so most all of those conditions are sort of on the opposite end of the spectrum of fog. So I don't know if it's that they don't like the fog so much as they tend to gobble a lot more when it's really clear. And you'll notice that not just turkeys, but I mean, any kind of songbird. I mean, like a morning like we had today where it's still and clear and really pretty, all the birds are calling, and, turkeys just fall right in there with all the other myriad of songbirds and stuff. They're going to vocalize a lot more when it's like this versus when it's, low barometric pressure and foggy and wanting the rain and that sort of thing.
Adam, do you get to go turkey hunting yourself very often?
I do. I'm a pretty avid hunter myself, and I try to make time for it this time of the year. Obviously, it's a busy time of the year for me professionally as a biologist with the Department of Wildlife who focuses on turkeys, and then also I'm a father of little kids and have all of those obligations. So I try to go as much as I can, but it's probably not as much as I would like.
Well, Adam, it's been a pleasure to get an update from you. It's always good to visit with you. It'll be interesting to see where turkey hunting goes in Mississippi from this point forward. But my prediction is it stays popular. It stays popular because you can go enjoy turkey hunting in places where you may not necessarily see big deer or certainly won't be able to duck hunt, and the opportunities to do turkey hunting across this state are pretty significant. Anyway, it's been a pleasure to visit with you, Adam. Have a great day, my friend.
Absolutely. Thank you.
Thank you for joining us on Super Talk Outdoors. And as I always say, Stay safe. Stay safe when you're in the outdoors. Always put safety first. We'll see you next week.